Live. We're here on Wednesday. Hello, Cody. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How you doing?
Good, good. Do we introduce ourselves? I guess we should. For people who don't know and are maybe
Sure.
just joining in, my name is Joe Skipper with Skipper Realty Group, brokered by EXP Realty. I'm here with my good friend Cody Wilhelm with Residential Mortgage.
That's right.
So you've got a real estate agent and a lender here talking important topics. I think they
Talking
can
shop.
tend to lean nerdy, but I think like for people that may need the advice, I think it hopefully is helpful to people. But
I think so too. I think it's just like anything else that you do. If you're not in the home buying mode, it might be very easy to just not really care as much. But if you
yeah,
are considering buying, I think it's interesting. It's good, valuable stuff. Even if what we talk about is sometimes more specific than just in
for sure.
general. But yeah, I think
For sure.
it all makes
Well,
sense
they're
to
just gonna
us.
have to if they tune in, they're gonna have to just deal with it, right?
You just got to
So
deal with two good looking guys, you know?
well, let's jump in today. I wanted to go into, I think like we're getting, I've been getting some good feedback with some of the more particular type of loans we do, or,
Hmm.
the different structures of different things, because I think, obviously the average person does this very few times through their life. And doesn't realize there's other options out there, or different, or think outside the box options that can help them into homes that they maybe didn't want to. And
Hmm.
particularly what I find is people that do not want to rehab the home that they buy in. They walk in with a price range. They think this is I want to move in ready home, and that is totally fine. But
Hmm.
sometimes you can get into a neighborhood that you maybe want that is maybe priced you out based on, the comps, but it could be a home in the neighborhood that is outdated or it needs some fixing up. So I
Yeah.
think an option, what I wanted to talk to you today about that is a rehab loan, and what that can provide to someone that, say, in a certain price range, they love a certain neighborhood that's above their price range, but see a home that needs some work, and
Hmm.
they're like, well, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to do it. We can't, we can afford it because it is on the lower end of this nice neighborhood we want to be in,
Yeah.
but we have no idea how to go about getting the funds or getting the money to rehab this home and get it ready to move into, or to the look that they want. So
Hmm.
anyways, if you want to kind of dive into a rehab loan, like what it is, what people use it for, what they can use it for, and kind of how it's structured, so that a buyer that's maybe at least open to that idea might think this is a good program.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a couple different kinds, and they can be described in different ways. Like somebody might call it a rehab loan, some might call it a renovation loan. 203K is what the FHA's version. That's the official term. FHA has two versions: the Streamline, which is just a smaller dollar amount, and then they have the full version, which is like you're going to do a complete overhaul on the house. You're going to strip it down to the studs and redo everything. Conventional also has their own option for it too. So there's a lot of different ways to accomplish the same thing. But in a nutshell, the way that they work is you are taking the home in an as is state, which you couldn't otherwise do. Say, like you're doing a conventional or an FHA loan. The house needs a lot of work to be done to it, and it's not financeable. That's usually one reason why people will do it. You can do it if you just want to finance in the cost to put in all new flooring and redo the kitchen and all these things that you don't want to just eat into your savings with or whatever. But um, essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to take the price of the home. We'll just use an example: $300,000 home, and you want to do $50,000 worth of work. So you would still be purchasing the home for 300,000, but your loan amount would be 350,000. So you're rolling it in. The numbers will make sense after the work is done, right? Because you're essentially you're when you go to get the appraisal done during that process, the appraiser is going to have a list of the items that you're going to be doing. So they are going to issue an as is value, and then they're also going to issue an after renovation value, which that
Okay.
should be able to tell you, hey, if I'm putting $50,000 into it, after renovation, you would hope and think that the value that you're getting out of the home is now 360, 370, 380, whatever that might be of the work that you're doing. But
Yeah.
you're just rolling everything into the loan as opposed to taking out a separate loan for it, or saving up money, or, you know, chipping away at it over the next 10 years.
And is that So it's factored into the mortgage, so it's the same interest
Mhm.
rate as the mortgage. You're just basically, qualifying for a 350 mortgage versus a 300 mortgage in that particular
Yep.
case,
Yep.
correct?
And
And
kind of
then
like the interest rate's a little bit higher than what it would be if you were doing just a standard FHA or conventional loan. But
okay.
it's not much. It's not like the DSCR loan that we were talking about the last week. It's not points higher. It's maybe 0.5% higher. So it's not anything too drastic.
So you were mentioning the appraiser comes in and says, here's the value as is, and here's the value
Mhm.
what it is after you do X, Y, Z. Does the appraiser First off, does the appraiser say you have to do this stuff with the house? Like, is he or she going through the home and saying this needs to be done to get this final appraiser, or how does that work?
No. So if you go FHA, again, there's two different ways to do it. One being the streamlined, one being the full version. If you do the full version, there is a HUD inspector that's involved, and they will be telling you, here's what has to be done in order
Okay.
for this home to meet requirements. So you're going to kind of have a two-in-one inspector on that part of it. If you go conventional, everybody's for the most part going to know like if the house needs to have all of the finishes completed or um, whatever the major issues are with the home, those are going to need to be completed. So the appraiser is really just going to be issuing what the current state is and then what it's going to be after all of that work is done. But they won't be issuing anything unless they were going out and just notating like, hey, the
Okay.
roof is actively leaking or certain things that they would normally be putting on there.
So you can do what you want with the home as to
Mm-hmm.
renovations.
Yep.
It's not limited to, what an appraiser thinks or requires to be done. It can go above and beyond.
Yep, yep, and
Okay.
and you can do. I mean, there's a variety of things that you can do with it too. You can technically, with some of them, you can put in a pool. You can do landscaping. Like you can do some stuff too that's not just the set. Like we need to do X, Y, and Z to make this house just livable. You
Yeah.
can do some additional things. So if it is something that somebody is interested in doing, it is worth looking at. Okay, since we're doing this, since we're going through this process, do we want to include anything else and see if we can include some additional things. It's just one thing I'll throw out there is just to be aware of things like landscaping. And again, I'm not an appraiser. This is just based on what I see, but there are certain things that don't really add value. So
Yeah.
you may put $10,000 worth of landscaping into the home and it doesn't come out in value in the sense of what your appraisal is. It might come out at value of like emotional value and
Yeah.
the look of it, but just something to be aware of that if you do go down that path, make sure you kind of get a gauge for what you're doing. And that's the importance of the appraisal part too, is they're going to tell
Yeah.
you, hey, when you do all this work, at the end of the day, here's how much equity you're going to gain by putting in this much money.
So how do you determine the price that you need? Do you have to work with a specific contractor, or can you
Mm-hmm.
do DIY? Can you do a combo of both?
You have to get a licensed contractor. And that is usually, I don't want to say it's a deterrent, but I think a lot of people going into it, especially if you're a handy person and maybe you've done some work in the past, where you're like, heck yeah, I can just roll this all into my loan and then just work on it as I go. It doesn't quite work like that as much as it would be awesome because I'm
Yeah.
a handy
Yeah.
person too. That's what
Yeah.
I would prefer it to be like. But no, you're gonna have to get licensed contractors. They're gonna submit the bid.
Okay.
When the time comes and you close on the loan, the money for each project is going to be it's going to go to the contractor. So you're not just as the new homeowner, you're not going to get just say a $50,000 check or a line of credit or something, and you get to pay out whoever you want. It's going to be all of that work is going to be done for you. It's going to be done in segments. So, for example, if one contractor is doing $30,000 worth of work, they're not going to just get a $30,000 check and say, "Hey, go do what you need to do." It's going to be phase one. I need $10,000. Here's exactly what I'm going to be doing. Then, once that work is completed, they will then request for more funds, verification of work that gets done. So
Okay.
there's more moving parts to it, but it's safer for the buyer because now this contractor, whether you trust them or know them or not, they can't just take your $30,000, $50,000, and then disappear
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
unfortunately has happened with new
Happens
construction, with
more than you think. Yeah.
renovation stuff. So it's a safety feature, which is good. And you, as the buyer, you're not really involved in that part of it. Like once your loan's closed, it's really just the contractor coordinating with the lender on getting their funds and
Getting all that
verifying what
stuff.
work was done. Mm-hmm.
So that kind of goes to my next question is it sounds like you do all this post closing of the house, obviously, right? Like you do
Mm-hmm.
any of the renovations once you officially close, but how does that factor into the mortgage that you have? Because generally speaking, the mortgage starts, once you close and you own the house, you start paying your mortgage. How does that work with a rehab loan?
Yeah, so you're going to be when you close, your payment is based on whatever the cost to purchase the home as well as the cost to renovate.
Okay.
So you're going to be paying on that right
Okay.
away. And technically, when you close, your mortgage payment's not due for you skip a month essentially. So and most of the time, the work is to be completed as soon as possible. So you
Okay.
shouldn't, in theory, be paying for the example that I gave earlier, 350 on your home and you don't get the work done for
I
a
see.
year and a half or
Yeah.
something. It should be within, depending on what the scope of work is, the work should be done within the first couple months, unless you're talking about a roof that,
Okay.
we're in the middle of winter and it might
Yeah.
take them 2 months before they can get a dry 4 days in a row or something. But yeah, you're paying for it just as if you bought it for 350. So
Okay.
your payments based on that, it's going to be staying the same.
So is there
Construction
a
loans are a little different, but yeah.
there's probably a point where you talk to your lender and see what the worth it point is.
Hmm.
But is there a low end on the rehab? Can you go as low as say we see a lot of homes that are just outdated, that the door
Hmm.
fixture, door hardware, replacing flooring and interior
Hmm.
paint. Not a crazy expensive thing,
Yeah.
is that something that you can do in a rehab loan? And
Hmm.
probably down the road, you could talk to your lender on whether that's worth it or not to do a rehab
Yeah.
loan. Maybe it's not, but can you, if you said, "Hey, I need new carpet, new paint, new door hardware for all the stuff in the house," can you do
Yep.
that as low
Yep.
as that? Okay.
Yep. You can. And it probably might not make sense for some of that stuff just because you're now getting into an interest rate environment that's a little
Yeah.
bit higher than what it would be. But yes, to answer your question, you could do that for, and I have seen that happen too, where it's not it's not big ticket items, right? It's like you
Yeah.
said, some paint, some flooring, maybe new countertops, and it's not. But they also realize too that hey, we can't do this. We don't want to put it on a credit card. We
Yeah, and
don't,
we can't
we
do
don't
it
want to do all
like
this stuff. We might as
otherwise.
well just
Yeah.
roll it all into the loan while we can.
Yeah. And then
Mm-hmm.
obviously that you always talk about the refinance a few years later and do, whatever it is.
Yep.
And a thing of like $5,000 over a 30-year mortgage, like adding
Mm-hmm.
that is not insignificant, but it's,
Yeah.
maybe better than trying to max out a credit card to get that stuff paid for.
Yep.
Um,
And while we're on
and
that topic, I will say, if you are a handy person, sometimes it could make sense to do a cash out refi because again, if you want to do any of the work yourself or you have a friend that's a contractor or whatever it is, all that work has to be done through those contractors. So just something to keep in mind if you're wanting to get the finances for it, but you also want to save the money in
yeah.
paying the labor of it, talk to a lender, make sure that you're both on the same page that of how it all works and who's going to be getting what.
Okay. And that goes, so you're saying that you can't use your buddy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but what is the licensing procedure for a contractor? What if your buddy is a licensed,
Yeah.
bonded, insured contractor? Is it any contractor that's licensed, bonded, or insured, or is the lender specific to who that is?
No, so it's going to be a licensed contractor, general contractor, or specialty contractor, if whatever it is that they're working on. They do have to be approved by the lender, but and each lender is going to be different on what their approval
Yeah.
process is. But it's usually a pretty straightforward process, verifying maybe a couple um, referrals on different vendors that maybe they would use or just previous something to show that they actually do the work that they say they're doing because you could be a licensed contractor that hasn't touched anything for 25 years and
Yeah.
so it's more of a safety feature. But yes, if you've got a friend that's a licensed contractor and they're like, hey, I'll come out there and help you with the work and you
Yeah.
work alongside of me and it'll save you labor time, yeah, you can do that.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Mhm.
Well, thanks. This seems like a good option for people that do see those homes. I know a lot of people do kind of
Mhm.
it's intimidating. Like
Yeah.
Christine and I have done it with a couple of places and it is a very intimidating thing. But I think once you get into it or you talk to someone like you that can like walk you through how that process works, it could get you into a home in a specific area that you want or a specific home that you want. Um, Factoring all that in and rehabbing it yourself and building equity in that house is like, I
Yeah.
think, to me as like an investor and real estate agent, it's like, yeah, that's the best way to go. But
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like a great option. It's obviously going to have some downsides and some, things you have to consider. But I
Mhm.
think overall it could be a good option for people to get into a home that in a neighborhood they want that maybe gets the worst house on the block and
Yes.
fix it up
Yeah.
to be up with the others. So
Yep, and that's the nice thing about it too is your pool of people that are going to be looking at, especially if the home is in rough shape and
yeah,
it's not financeable through the traditional way, your competition is probably going to be a lot lower. You might have some
yeah,
investors or some cash people that are interested in it, but overall, it's you getting so much of the work done, the paperwork side of it done up front. You've got bids,
yeah,
you know what it's going to cost, you know what to expect. Once the loan closes, now it's just getting the work done, and you moved into a home that's been renovated to exactly what you wanted. Um, which sometimes
yeah.
is the case, like in an inventory shortage or something where you just can't find what you want. Sometimes it takes converting an existing place into what you want. So definitely gives some good
Absolutely.
options.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, man.
Yeah.
If you guys have any questions or any issues or any thoughts on a rehab loan, give Odie a call because he's got a ton of info on it and can
Hmm.
talk more on it and whether it's right for you as a buyer when you do go that route. So, thank
Yeah.
you, Cody.
Yeah.
That was great, and it went very quickly talking about that.
Yeah.
But no, it's good to see you. Thank you for that information. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're still on venture. We're still going with the podcast. If you guys want to be on that podcast, let us know. We'd love to have you on and have some interviews. We had a good interview today, really insightful interview today. So I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
putting that stuff
Yeah.
out with you.
Excited to
So
get some of those dropped here before too long. So
for sure.
should be
Well,
good.
cool,
How's
man.
how's the
Well,
real estate market today, this
Oh,
week?
okay. It's good. Things are picking up.
Hmm.
Anecdotally on my end, buyers are picking up, sellers are picking up. They're starting to
Uh-huh.
kind of get into the market. They're starting to see kind of the future a little bit. And we never can predict the future, but rates are kind of steadily, slowly creeping down. And I
Hmm.
think people are getting just more comfortable with a higher interest rate in general. It went up to close to 8, not too long ago, so they're
Yeah.
like the 6s, it sucks, but it's not like the end of the world, and so I think you're starting to see people be like, "I can't wait any longer." We were trying to hedge our bets, and we
Yeah.
were trying to, we were trying to wait to see if maybe it went to 4 again, but it's like, I
Uh-huh.
think people are starting, at least on my end of things, starting to see, "Look, we can do it. We can work some things around. Let's just make it happen at this rate." So, I think real estate, the days on market are longer, especially in the high-end homes in the 8, 900,000, but, um, it doesn't mean the house is bad. It's just people are kind of more buyers are more patient. They're like, "If I'm gonna
Mhm.
pay a rate like this and I'm gonna have a monthly payment, I wanna make sure I'm getting into the right house." So,
Yeah.
how about
Yeah.
loans? Speaking of which, how about rates?
Same similar experience. I feel like things have picked up a little bit, and I think a lot of it is due to the fact that that's just we didn't have this quick, go up to 7%, and then 6 months later we're back down to 5%. I think
Yeah,
it's just kind of the reality setting in, but also the optimistic viewpoint too
yeah,
from people. I think it's just the feeling like we're really close to the Fed dropping rates,
yeah,
even if it is just slowly incremental drops over the next 2 years. It's at least like we've come up over the hill and now we're going to be slowly working our way down. I think it's just a optimistic future, and it's been kind of a crazy first part of the year as far as
yeah,
rates go and all the information. It looked like we were going to have this great rally and rates were going to start coming down, and then you have a lot of economic information that comes out that says things are still going really strong. So maybe it's delaying the interest rate drop, but I'm seeing a lot of layoffs. I'm seeing a lot of other economic things that it's kind of like this whirlwind, and
yeah,
it leaves you not knowing what the heck tomorrow is going to look like, and
yeah.
what does it look like in 6 months? I don't really know. So it kind of keeps you on your toes.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, man. Well, I hope you enjoy your week. If you guys
You
have any
too.
questions, give myself or Cody a call, and we can help you with real estate or the lending side. So.
Beautiful.